LEONE Broadcasting Corporation, good evening. I am BANGURA with Newshour. Coming up in this edition, President Ernest by Kurma receives in audience members of the administration of the University of Sierra Leone at State House. Vice President Victor Bokarifo briefs journalists on his recent visit to Lebanon and Turkey. And Parliament approves 6 presidential appointees for various positions of trust. All the stories and more, including business and sports news, lined up here in this edition of News Hour, which begins right now. And now for our first story this evening. Parliament has approved 6 presidential appointees for various positions, including deputy ministers, resident ministers, special advisor, and an ambassador at large. The approval was done after a vetting process by the Committee on Appointment and Public Service. Our parliamentary correspondent Mahawa Aliu has the story.
Contained therein be approved. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those against say nay. The ayes have it.
After a hectic debate on both sides of the House, the following nominees were approved. Honorable Alhaji Dr. Alpha Kano, Advisor to the President and Ambassador at Large. Whistling Bankole Johnson, Board Member, Bank of Sierra Leone. Karamo Kaba, Resident Minister East. Momo Vandi, Deputy Minister of Finance and Economic Development. Mariatu Kemo Sise, Board Member, Income Tax Board of Appellate Commissioners. And Abu Bakar Kamara, Board Member, Millennium Challenge Corporation Unit. Supporters turned out in their numbers to show their love and support for each of the nominees. However, supporters here expressed hope and happiness and commended President Koroma for appointing Sierra Leoneans from different disciplines to serve the country. In the well of Parliament, Honorable Veronica Kadisise of the main opposition Sierra Leone People's Party condemned the act of supporters into the well of Parliament and called on the leadership of the House to put structures in place in addressing such problem. She called on the nominees to put the interest of the country first. Honorable Claude Commander, who seconded the motion, said among other things that the nominees must consider themselves lucky to have been appointed by President Koroma to serve the country in different capacities and urged them to work hard in complementing the agenda for prosperity. Honorable Commander said failure is not an option and therefore called on the nominees to work diligently. Honorable Bine Bangura prefaced its intervention by figuring out the special advisor to President and Ambassador at Large. He said the Honorable Alhaji Dr. Alpha Kanu is a professional mining engineer who has held several important offices of state.
Mr. Speaker, honorable members, after a scientific random sampling conducted in my house, Dr. Alpha Kanu stand very tall. I repeat, Dr. Alpha Kanu stands very tall.
And commended the President for appointing such a qualified and peace-loving Sierra Leonean to serve him as advisor. Honorable Bine Bangura, however, called on all nominees to work in the interest of the country. The minority leader highlighted, among other things, that all the nominees are suitably qualified for their various positions. Honorable Dr. Bernadette LAHAI cautioned the nominees to keep to their promises made during the vetting process.
That is why I have insisted in the past that we have a committee of assurance in this house. Most parliaments have committee of assurance, so that when they appear before us, either in the appointments committee or before the committees or before this house, the assurances they give must be followed through. Because the tendency is SO2, word na month, not to load na neck. But the assurance committee will ensure that SO2, you word na month, na load na your neck. So that we'll follow you and make sure that you make right those assurances. My brother, who is going to Kenema or the Eastern region, I asked you whether you have recently driven from Kenema to Tongofield to CONGO, and he said yes. I said, what was the experience? He said, my little small car almost left on the road. I also asked him that, are you aware of the infrastructure and development from Kenema to Olungu? He said yes. I asked him, are you aware that it is only now in the Eastern region that we cannot boast of a university? He said, yes, I'm aware. So as he counted and confirmed the questions I put to him, I counted that was assurance number 1, assurance number 2 you've given us, assurance number 3 you've given us, that as resident minister, you are assuring us that 1, our road, particularly Blama Hanga Road, and the Maxwell Kobe Road that houses all the ministries, and the Dama Road, a very important road, will be paved. And he said yes. He promised that yes, he will also ensure that during his tenure, the Eastern Polytechnic will also be transformed into a University of the East.
The majority leader, Honorable Ibrahim Bundu, after raising up several concerns, has this to say.
We know no human being or no businessman wants to pay taxes. But if you don't pay those taxes, the government will not run effectively. That is why in other jurisdictions, it is a national security. It is a national security for anybody to evade tax, and you will be dealt with in accordance with you breaching the national security of that state. Our taxes are not only not paid, people are not only repeating to pay taxes, but our tax collection agencies are not doing more. Our tax collection agencies are encouraged to do more. If governments don't receive those requisite taxes, this government will not, and no government will not run a nation effectively.
Several other MPs added their voices to the debate. SLBC News, Mahawa Aliyu, Freetown.
President Ernest Bai Koroma received in audience members of the administration of the 3 constituent colleges of the University of Sierra Leone, Frabe College, IPAM and Commerce, and the International Relations Directorate at State House. Raza Bashkumar sent in this report.
Presenting the team, the Vice President, Dr. Victor Bokari said he joined the Frabe College group as an alumni of that institution. He informed President Koroma that they have thought of coming to him for a long time now, but taking into consideration his busy schedule, they had waited until this day when the Lord Almighty slated that they should have audience with him. Introducing the team, the Vice-Chancellor, University of Sierra Leone, Professor Ekundaya Thompson, expressed profound gratitude to His Excellency for granting them audience so that they could brief him about relevant issues affecting the university. In his contribution, the Registrar of the University of Sierra Leone, Sori Dumbuya, expressed sincere appreciation to the President for his support to promote the institution since it took over governance of the country. He reiterated that they have been particularly appreciative when he recently intervened when they had problems with students. The registrar added that the intervention of His Excellency the President with respect to the encroachment challenge which they have battled with for such a long time is now behind them. Mr. Dumbuya again thanked President Nkrumah for the Badia project, which will revive the university and move it towards where it used to be during his days at college. Briefing the President on the purpose of their visit, the Acting Director of Alumni and International Relations Directorate, Mrs. Bernadette Cole, thanked President Nkrumah for granting them audience in spite of his busy schedule to brief him about the forthcoming university banquet and other related alumni activities in the university. Speaking on the issue, the university banquet, she revealed that the banquet was introduced in 1992 at the time of Professor Kosonike Kosotamas as Vice-Chancellor to recognize excellence among students in their chosen fields of study, as well as staff who went the extra mile to get things done and had been singled out for their hard work. Mrs. Cole maintained that the banquet was hosted by the Chancellor of the University on the grounds of State House and that it has attracted members of the diplomatic corps, top and senior politicians and well-wishers. She further disclosed that considerable funds were raised by what became known as the Chancellor's Banquet to support projects in the constituent colleges of the university.
Your Excellency, I'm pleased to inform you that the Alumni and International Relations Directorate, which I head as Acting Director, has also recently assisted the Wabi College administration to publish the first volume of the Record of Alumni of Wabi College from 1827, when Samuel Ajay Crowther from Nigeria registered as the first student, to 2012. The librarian of Wabi College, the Reverend Oliver Harding, did the research and compilation together with other individuals, including the late Mrs. Marjorie Jones, wife of Professor Elliot Jones, who made the first attempt to compile the register from 1827 to 1977.
Vice-Chancellor Professor Sabamanja commended the Vice President for being with them in various forums as a college, and he has been very active in the affairs of the college and especially for facilitating their meeting. He also thanked the President for what he has done for the University of Sierra Leone as very valued alumnus, especially in intervening in the crisis they had with the students. Welcoming the team, President Nkrumah commended them for the efforts they have made through the years in running the affairs of the university and for ensuring that even when they were going through difficult moments as a nation, they were still being able to contain their efforts in upholding the standards that were expected. The President admitted that he is aware that they have several challenges, which he said would be addressed. He again thanked the Alumni and International Relations Directorate for the initiative, as it is out of those initiatives that they can now have this great committee, the Awards Banquet Committee, that has been set up, including the comprehensive register of past students from 1827 to 2012. President Nkrumah expressed the hope that the register has compiled detailed information, including that of his father, who was at Wabi College in 1951.
1827 to 2012, I think it has contained detailed information. I've had a preview of it, and discussing with my Vice President, I made reference to him of the name and the number of my father, who was there in 1951. It was quite an interesting thing. Since I received the advance copy, it has been on my table and almost every night. I look at the names of people that have been there before us, and also to refresh my memory of those that we served together. The registrar, people like John Karimu, John Benjamin, Solomon Samba, and we are all over the place, and we have to be grateful for having had the opportunity to go through Fleury College.
The Vice President, Dr. Victor Bokarifo, has briefed the press on his recent visits to Lebanon and Turkey. Whilst in Lebanon, the Vice President opened the newly established consulate, and in Turkey, he attended the Organization of Islamic Community (OIC) Summit, where he was privy to discuss hard and scholarship issues for the Muslim community and students in Sierra Leone. Daphne Zainab Kamara has the story.
Sierra Leone's relationship with Lebanon has existed for over 125 years, and the establishment of a consulate in Lebanon is to strengthen bilateral ties and open the gateway for direct foreign investment. Lebanon and Sierra Leone share a similar history, as they have all been through civil wars, of which there are still visible evidences. Vice President Victor Bokarifo noted that the two countries have had a long international trade links. Inasmuch as a good number of Lebanese are doing business in Sierra Leone, the essence of establishing the consulate at this time is to create a proper channel for new investors who may be skeptical with regards to fraudulent activities and prevent illegal entry into Sierra Leone. Whilst in Lebanon, Vice President Ford made attempts to ascertain rumors of abuse and maltreatment of Sierra Leoneans who work as domestic servants.
Servicemen and women from Sierra Leone who are taking part in the United Nations peacekeeping mission in Lebanon. They made me very proud, really very proud. We are a small group of Sierra Leonean citizens who are in Lebanon. And some of the stories they tell and are reported here about slavery in Lebanon, this and that, they may not be true. But we are told different stories. There are those of our brothers and sisters who, out of eagerness to go abroad, they jump and they don't look before they leap. Those stories that may not be exactly true.
Vice President Victor Bokarifo said the 13th Organization of Islamic Cooperation Summit in Turkey discussed the question of Palestine and Arab-Israeli conflict situation in the Muslim world, combating terrorism and violent extremism, Islamophobia, humanitarian situation in the Muslim world, and the OIC 2025 Program of Action. According to the theme, Unity and Solidarity for Justice and Peace, the summit adopted the Istanbul Declaration. The Vice President had the opportunity to solicit for scholarships for students to study in Turkey and for Muslim community to be able to perform this year's Hajj, as Muslims in Sierra Leone have not performed Hajj for 2 years due to the Ebola outbreak.
The Minister of Finance, Saudi Arabia. So we agreed that we should hold a side meeting, which we did, exchanging ideas, more telling them about Ebola, about the problems of performing the Hajj, and appealing to all of them to make it easy and feasible for people to go and perform the Hajj this year. It was quite good. The OIC is a very organized group. You see, the same problems we have, the same problems, we are part of them. Although, you know, they are trying. We are all trying together to solve so many of the problems, but the problems are there. The OIC is willing to help other member countries. They are very willing to help. I believe they will be very supportive of Sierra Leone. We spoke about scholarships for our students, and we have promises that Turkey in particular will help our students. So we are putting in place how to get there.
The committee members resolved and emboldened their determination to fight against terrorism. Lebanon has been without a president since 2014. The parliament has been unable to come to a consensus on a successor. SLBC TV News, Daphne Zainab Kamar reporting.
This is News and Live on the Sierra Leone Broadcasting Corporation. Now to another story we are following here this evening. As we approach the rain, semblance of environmental problems have started showing their ugly heads. Last night, rain left piles of garbage along the streets of Freetown. SLBC team has been assessing the situation.
Of Freetown, though citizens express happiness over the coming of the rains because of the water crisis. Behind that happiness is foreseen environmental disaster, as has been predicted by environmental experts. Many people express displeasure over the huge piles of filth.
This cleaning day, whether people are stopping at this country, is more better than anything. I reckon I want them for the month. Government no go allow people to go to this plastic copy full up in this country. We know we know for clearer. From today, we come up cross mama, we the work, we the sweep the plastic there and trees. No, it's not like plastic. This now, not we all the benefit. There way then the government and the benefit. Why we for suffer the doti? Because no go to the people that bring and can at this country, can register the water copy there. We don't go kill the law. No, the do. South Africa, what they ready to what they see the plastic there, the banner, say for make a paper back in for me. Anybody what they do back in a paper back in 90 put. 90 sell it. No plastic no for the day. This one has to come maybe don't kill the people there. Lord say you when they sell water. Any plastic we see na treat. What you know say you own company na you name right there. Believe me, go responsible. Or if not, that they won't get the company. Many of them go clean the city. You can look at it.
They attributed the situation to the poor drainage system in the city. Suleiman Zaino Parker is the environmental and social officer at the Freetown City Council. He said that as a council, they are aware of the challenge of cleaning the city. It is because of this, he said, the council saw the need to hand over the management of garbage to Masada company to clean the city. But however, the situation of late has been challenging, he affirmed.
We have realized that we should not wait until the rains are serious. There are a lot of contributing factors to this kind of situation. One is population increase as a result of urbanization. Freetown as a city is not expanding, but the population keeps increasing day by day. And the facilities that we do have cannot meet those growing population. People have been migrating from the rural area to Freetown and an urban city. And during their activity, there has been a lot of commercial activities. And apart from commercial activities, we have seen some smaller industries also going to bigger industries. If adequate actions are not taken to put those waste under control, we will end up having, some kind of a garbage crisis, which we are gradually moving to.
It could be recalled that last year's September flood was as a result of heavy rains.
Well, that report was read in the studios by Salma Tajalo. The Congo Cross Division of the Sierra Leone Police is investigating an alleged case of murder at 7B Tengwe Town. A few days back, a body of a 36-year-old man, Patrick Bangura, was found in a pit toilet at 7B Tengwe Town after he went missing for some days. Umubakar visited the scene and Shina reports.
We are at a place in Tembe Town where it was reported that a man was allegedly found in a toilet. And we're here to investigate or to ask questions to know what exactly happened. We're here with some family members, the wife and other people who tell us exactly what had happened.
The man, before he died, because at midday night, me and police, I go work night. I left now, it was Friday 25, 8 o'clock, now I go work. I left my man lay down. Me and my man talk till father go work. So even Saturday morning, by 2 o'clock, I call a free call. Me and he talk to me. He said I can host quick, but can cook for him. Make go. It's not so okay. From then on, my man 4 o'clock morning tell me man goes come on in host. He wake one boy the man say as I say call lock, start the can cook, start go na do cook, go say grease. Nelly will walk and lock. So you walk and lock no from there. Him go be there by him go at the gym. Then him go at see him go at map here the stretch. He wear black clothes, shorts. Combat roses with blue and white, blue crepe, you get black design. Next say, but as I said, you go say you go na breeze over here. You go take breeze na do. Then him go that say go na do. So from there, let me come up on it. I ask some man. Then they explain tell me. So I try for call me man in phone. I not get her. Now I can't call her. Meet me man, put him phone on top of the phone door. So maybe if he say me man go walk or you don't go to him boss. I don't go other side. Now I will make the report I come across. From now I will make the report I go across. Then I go paper they go show how I will use they show at 3 days. But maybe if you say my man are missing. But after 16 days, when my man come up like Sunday, my man go inside the toilet, I go to watch next see something. But me not be the me go walk. Then my man go say second I also say boy they can count policeman say because they perfect now. So if it's not perfect because me after they go for my man say my man that kind of thing go happen to my man. So where I can name my sister say call the boss, that's na LUC. Sister and say we see post inside toilet, but not all that inside the toilet. So that call me boss can he can also policeman, he can also CID officer, different people in can with the chairman of the area, council or the worker. When I go outside the toilet now, you see me man inside the toilet. So you think God's lock me not no more. If
according to you, been tell you say or been tell people and say they go take breathe.
We not doing yes, we wake women pick.
Now you man, you ever know say get problem or get issues where they stress am?
I know like I get problem with the family there. I get so many problems. Because my mommy they tell me say, maybe not put more on the family so and the family issues. I don't be they put me more say. It's step sister with your own sister there plus they make all say alala any day alala for one company any day palava this company. Any day cost, but because they can't get in max they can this stock they can. So my mommy they decide for bill over under. So when I come out, my man is small sister coming. So sister, I say Uncle David call my man. That's my man, your small sister. He say call him. I go tell him man say my man outside go bill. You know go inside that place. They give me man small side for bill. My man go bill up garrets at the place. So my man go enter inside the place there. My man also pay this company also pay born my man.
Okay, but now you send a police and can pull him.
Yes.
So you need the police then they investigate or how far.
Yes, the case is go for the beginning when he said call for the beginning my man lost. The case with that police for me they show na way. You pass Esther was my man no say yes my man they say that toilet. Because still they become not be believe some man inside there. Pass when they pull on my man I dress the crepe. My man the body go beg me man. I say hey na my man me and say that toilet. Because shameful they beg me man like so my man a papa.
Initially, the first report we got was something that has to do with absconding. It was reported by the wife of the deceased. The deceased name is Patrick Bangura. The wife came to work on the 26th of March. It was last month, and then she worked till the morning. So the 27th, when she went back, she discovered that. Well, she was told, when she inquired, she was told that the husband went out of the compound at 4 o'clock a.m. on that 27th day, and since he left, he did not return. So she was extremely worried, and the next thing she could think about was to make that report, an official report at the Congo Cross police station. So initially when she came, so the matter was recorded as absconding, offense of absconding. If at all we are going to find the husband somewhere, that would have been the offense we would have made against him. Not until recently, as recent as last week Monday, the police was alerted. So immediately I dispatched
my operations officer and his team, including the scene of crime officer, to go and ascertain whether the report was correct, and if that was the case, for us to take the appropriate measures. And when he learned that the report was correct, he called me for further directive, and I asked him to, first and foremost, close the toilet, make sure it's barricaded so that it cannot be easily accessed by anybody. Because right from that moment we realized that there was need to preserve the scene of crime. Now that the body of Patrick Bangura allegedly has been seen in the pit toilet, there was need to preserve that whole area. So we barricaded the place, we sealed it off from even those who are the occupants of that compound. After some hours of struggle to lift the corpse out, eventually we succeeded to get the body out. And right away, the doctor was able to conduct post-mortem.
So post-mortem has been done. So exactly. What did the pathologist say?
Well, he is of the view that the death is not natural, and that is why it's a cause for investigation.
Now that you're investigating this story, do you have any suspects?
Already we have a few individuals helping the police in the investigation.
They relatives?
Yeah, well, these are immediate relatives.
Well, that was the Chief Superintendent of the Congo Cross Police Station, Thomas Lai, talking there to Umubakar. The women of Sierra Leone have presented a solidarity paper to the Constitutional Review Committee calling for the inclusion of gender equality into the revised 1991 Constitution. It could be recalled that the recent abridged version of the 1991 Constitution did not capture issues of women's empowerment. Speaking on behalf of the Women President Women's Forum Network, Maud Peacock and Jasmine Jusu-Sherif said that they recently held a solidarity conference where they came up with 19 action points that are expected to be factored into the revised version. They said they have come up with one voice to ensure the new constitution has a gender lens for the betterment for women. The chairman of the Constitutional Review Committee, Justice Edmund Cowan, said the abridged version is not the final draft, but there is room for further consultations. He said that they are in the process of embarking on nationwide consultation for additional inputs. Well, this is Newshour Live on the Sierra Leone Broadcasting Corporation. The National Survey Council has paid a familiarization visit to the Minister of Social Welfare, Gender and Trans Affairs, Dr. CECILIA Blyden. The aim of the visit is to persuade the minister not to support any movement that will ban Bundu society in the country. The council vowed to avoid initiating children below age 18 to seek their consent. Francis Danema sent in this report read in the studios by Daphne Zainab Kamal.
Society is one of the cultural practices in Sierra Leone and many other African countries. According to Women Supporting the Society, Bondo is a training ground on how to train women to become responsible wives and mothers. Some group of people have also described the practice as harmful and should be abolished. National Secretary General, National Survey Council, Kade Zorokong, described Bondo as the only society that can bring women together. The council, she went on, has met both government and UN bodies to ensure the society is not abolished. Kade Zorokong called on the minister to support the society in the country. She promised that her council will avoid initiating children and can only initiate women who will give their consent. The Minister of Social Welfare, Gender and Children's Affairs, Dr. Sylvia Blyden, said the role of the government is to ensure they support the initiative of people, hence it is not unlawful. Dr. Blyden said she used to support the society and can support any woman who will voluntarily come out to be initiated. Westerners, the minister stressed, do not understand the Bondo society. She informed the Sowes that she is a trained medical doctor who knows the medical complications that women who have been initiated suffer during and after childbirth. One of the complications Sylvia Blyden stressed is fistula.
People have to understand, and you will notice if you were in the meeting, you had the loud applause when I told the women that we should not reduce the Bondo society to FGM, that the Bondo society is bigger than just FGM. I just highlighted an example to you about traditional healing powers, that these traditional women know that if you're not a member of the society, you would not know there are certain leaves, certain medical aspects of certain leaves that they know in their secret society that we don't know. Again, there are other aspects, training the ladies that go in there on certain cultural values. So you are not just going to look at FGM. Let's have it very clear that what the United Nations is against is female genital mutilation. It is not the role of government to take FGM away from the society. That is going to be the role of the women themselves. That's why we are having this dialogue. It's a respectful dialogue. You have to listen to them, you dialogue with them, and eventually we'll come to a point where we meet a mutual understanding.
The minister also met with the cross-section of the Interreligious Council to seek their support in maintaining religious tolerance in the country. The religious leaders called on the minister to help them build the already existing religious tolerance. The religious leaders also called for a national conference where all religious leaders should be brought together to discuss issues that will strengthen religious tolerance. Reacting to the request of the Interreligious Council, Dr. Sylvia Blyden says her ministry is without money to fund such a conference currently. She called on the council to also help her ministry find funds to support the initiative.
They've drafted an MOU whereby you had them commending His Excellency the President, that President Nkrumah is responsible for all this religious tolerance we are having. And they now want to use the opportunity, since we are having this unprecedented religious tolerance in Sierra Leone that we haven't had before, this type of unprecedented religious tolerance. They want to use the opportunity of this quote-unquote peacetime, especially in the midst of international religious intolerance that is happening around the world, to draft up an MOU where they understand themselves better if in the future a crisis should happen. The Ministry of Social Welfare, Gender and Children's Affairs, as it rightfully says, is here to make sure the welfare of the society is intact, with special emphasis on women and children, because they are like the most vulnerable. And we also have other aspects of the ministry, like the disabled, and also have the aged. There are other aspects, and now we have a desk that we're going to be opening for the EBD survivors.
Up next is the business news.
Hello and welcome to the business update with me, Awanatu Conte. We begin with the foreign exchange rates. The US dollar buys at 5,887 leones and sells at 6,006 leones. The British pound sterling buys at 8,370 leones and sells at 8,542 leones. And the euro buys at 6,707 leones and sells at 6,841 leones, courtesy of the United Bank for Africa, UBA. 30th of April is the due date for the filing of income tax returns for all taxpayers and stakeholders of the National Revenue Authority. The authority is reminding its stakeholders that there is a penalty for failure of filing income tax returns in accordance with the provisions of the Finance Act 2013. To tell us more on the income tax returns is the Corporate Affairs Manager, National Revenue Authority, Mohamed Bangura, who started by explaining the significance of income tax returns to business producer Lucien Ganda.
Basically, it's so important for all businesses, including those who are not actually making profit, but are registered with the National Revenue Authority, because this is document that gives the National Revenue Authority the understanding as to what your turnover is in terms of your business for the whole financial year. At the end of the day, if you are making income, what your chargeable income could be, so that it will compare it with your provisional assessment for last year with what should be your final payment of taxes. In other words, at the beginning of every year, business people make estimates to the National Revenue to say Lucien Enterprise would have to pay 10 million euros for 2016 financial year. We'll wait until the end of 2016 to ascertain whether that provisional assessment which was being made by you is correct. The law says 120 days at the end of the financial year, you are expected to file in a return to show whether that provisional assessment which you made was correct or not correct. So what it does, it gives us a true picture as to whether what your turnover, which you've stated earlier, is correct and what your chargeable income should be.
If they default, how would that affect the operations of the authority?
Well, if they default, what will happen? Firstly, there is a punishment and a penalty if you fail to file in your return. In other words, the law says when you fail to file in your return on the due date, you pay 5 million penalty, or you may go to jail for 1 year, or as the case may be. But if you fail to, you will actually not give NRA sufficient opportunity to give you a final assessment of tax. We call it the 5th installment payment. Because normally what they give to NRA is a provisional assessment.
So in this regard, since some people are now defaulting because they have refused to or not yet filed in their income tax returns, what do you do now to motivate them so that they could see the relevance of this particular document to filing their income tax returns?
Well, in fact, the Finance Act 2016 this year has also emphasized that all those who are doing business, whether you are a profit-making institution or not profit-making institution, now they still have time. It's the 30th of April, that's the due date for the filing of these returns. Okay. But if they fail to file, 1 day after that particular period, they are expected to pay 5 million in penalty.
Okay, for what I know, for developing countries like America, when people go filing their tax returns, at the end of the day, they make benefits. You know, they pay them certain kind of money, I don't know. Could you please explain to us whether that is possible in Sierra Leone?
It's also possible in Sierra Leone. This is why we're saying make sure that you file in the correct returns to us. For those who are companies who have correct accounts, etc., when you file in your return, if you see that what you filed in exceeds what you've actually, or is below what you actually submitted in terms of estimate, we'll give you a credit.
Well, that was the business news this evening with Hawana to Conte. Up next is the sports stories with Frances Browner.
Hello, good evening and welcome to Sports Update on Newshour. I am Francis Barnard. In sports tonight, the Minister of Sports, Ahmed Kanu, has said that he will stem and stamp in discipline in sport. He made this statement during the opening ceremony of a Level 2 Olympic Solidarity Coaches course in lawn tennis held at the Siaka Stevens Stadium in Freetown. Here is the story. Addressing participants, the minister, in his first official assignment, called on the coaches to concentrate on the cause and move Sierra Leone forward in the international scene, especially in the sub-region. He cautioned them that with hard work, the sky will be their limit. According to the minister, sport is a whole industry which requires attention and the mobilization of resources for its development. He disclosed that business in sports will no longer be the same, as he will work hard to put a well-organized system in place for the development of sport. He, however, raised concerns over the indiscipline in the sports family.
I keep hammering on the point, sports is an industry. If you organize a football match here, by the time you know, you will be employing 200 or 300 persons. Ticket sellers, stewards, you name it. And there will be markets, business people doing business. It's a franchise. And we are sitting, we are always grumbling. what is our contribution? So I want to thank all of you for coming, and do hope that we will put
He is Ahmed Kano, Minister of Sport. Well, also he made a walking visit to the National Olympic Committee today, where details of that story will be up in our daily sports program tomorrow. And also don't forget that the Sierra Leone team, the Patriots of Sierra Leone in South Africa, they have been awarded the medal and also the trophy, and the best player of the whole cricket tournament went to a Sierra Leonean. Also details of that story will also be up at Daily Sports tomorrow. Well, that's all we can provide for you in this edition of Daily Sports on Newshour. I am Francis Bernard. Good night.
Well, that was Francis Bernard with the sports stories. To end Newshour, the main points again. Present Ernest by Kuruma's receiving audience, members of the administration of the University of Sierra Leone at State House. The Vice President, Honorable Dr. Victor Bokari, has briefed journalists on his recent visit to Lebanon and Turkey. And Parliament has approved 6 presidential appointments for various positions of trust. Well, that's all in this edition of Newshour broadcast live on the SLBC on behalf of the news editor Irem Sore and the rest of the team. I am Abubakar Bangura in Freetown. Up next is Issues in the News. Happy viewing and keep watching.
Hello and welcome to Issues in the News. I'm from the Sierra Leone Broadcasting Corporation. With me, I'm Sheko Smaila. Coming up in this edition of Issues in the News, commercial motorbike riders stage peaceful protest. Well, commercial motorbike riders have staged a peaceful protest at State House, expressing dissatisfaction over what they refer to as harassment from the police. They said they are harassed by traffic police officers who extort money from them and put them behind bars if they refuse to give them money. They claimed that the officers, by extension, are depriving them from earning their living. Well, in the studios, to get an insight into the issue, I have our studio guest. And for ECCD News, the National Traffic Coordinator, Superintendent Daniel Bangura. Welcome to ECCD News, Superintendent.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Now, Superintendent Bangura, you've had the accusations or allegations from the commercial motorbike riders. Yesterday, they were at State House where they protested, alleging that you've been harassing them. You've been extorting money from them, and you've been keeping them behind bars if they refuse to give you money. Now, what do you have to say about this? What's your reaction to these several allegations from commercial bike riders?
To start with, I want to know the meaning. What do you understand the word harassment? In SAP, traffic as a sector, we not harass. We enforce the law being produced by, being given out by Parliament. And it's our mandate to say these laws are enforced. That's what we are on. We're not harassing people.
No, Mr. Bangura, they are saying that they've not been treated fairly. They are chased all over the place. And by extension, they are even saying that you extort money from them. And you sometimes keep them behind bars if they refuse to give you money.
That is a perception. The perception is their own right. But we don't keep people behind bars don't commit offense. If you can be a witness, we have not chased you before. It's before us.
LAHA, anybody who has not done offense yet. Besides traffic, officers, we were mandated to make sure the country is peace under control. Allow by this go to a peaceful atmosphere. What happened is that we spoke to them. It's a new management in traffic now. We spoke to them, went park after park, telling them that the lawlessness is growing in the city, and that for this time they are not allowed to come to the business center area. You can bear me witness that when they hit somebody, they don't even stop, run away. We call it hit and run. They break people's leg. They don't stop and go. They go to the emergency. We have about 50 people that have been dismayed, broken legs with their hands, and most of the killing from January to 25th to date, we have 49 dead people caused by Okadas, 189 slight injury, and 272 serious injury. This go by Okadas. So we went to them, can we come together and work as team, partners in law, to enforce law? We spoke to them, to be our friends, please obey traffic rules. Don't overdo traffic rules. Don't overload. For your protection, please use helmet to protect your head from injury.
Okay, now the issue of the CBD, has been something very prominent when it comes to talking about commercial bike riding. There was a time even when there was this memorandum of understanding by relevant stakeholders as to where they should apply, as to where they shouldn't. But it seems as though the issue of flying in the central business district of this capital has still not been addressed.
That's correct. That's why we did practice. Went to all the parts with their management, with their union. We spoke to them that the 15th we'll go into action. No, I agree. That I promised them that the 1st of June we'll now go on an operation that's using operation wear helmets. But now we are not using that operation. We are just doing normal traffic duty to make sure that if you like to buy commercial bikes, then you use a private, that's correct criminal aspect. It's fraud.
So are they, in other words, somebody was suggesting this morning that the protest yesterday at State House by the commercial bike riders was a kind of a diversional therapy, diversional tactics, because you had informed them that you are going to launch an operation.
We don't hit people from the back because they're professional.
Okay.
We tell you a problem that if you don't obey this law, there's law in this country that binds drivers and riders. So if you don't obey this law, it's our priority to make sure these laws are being abided to. And or else we charge.
No, according to the commercial bike riders, they are also saying that the police, have been biased because they are, as far as they are concerned, there are certain motorbikes owned by police officers, and when they fly the central business district, they are not arrested because they were even suggesting that because the police officers who are manning the central business district, they know exactly who owns bike, and if they know that this particular bike is owned by a police officer, that bike is allowed to apply the CBD.
That is allegation, but it's not true. That's completely fabricated. They were saying all bikes that carries black plates, number plates, belongs to police officers or military. And these bikes, that the police officers do not arrest them. And when I spoke to the president, said, no, those bikes are not commercial bikes. And by commercial bikes, we've given the explanation that tells us they should be in red paint. So what we did is not operation. What we did is that to just see that law by the city, and then we look at any bike rider who carries black plates and carries the use of commercial, is using the bike that people license for. So we arrest you. And we did it, and we arrested about 2022. And when they came, they saw it and said, oh, that is true, these are private black number plates, but I use a commercial. The AYB radio my boss, and that's of it. So we are, and there are police officers who use for bikes, but they're not owners. But they have charged to court. Few have been charged, few run away. So if you come and clean your bike, we charge you.
Okay, now, National Traffic Coordinator, Superintendent Daniel Bangura, now they are also saying that if, for example, there is this police officer around the central business district, let's say, for example, arrests a bike. Let's say, for example, the bike, the police officer does not know the owner of this bike, but the rider knows, and the rider will just call probably this officer and says, I've been arrested by a police officer in the CBD. Just a single phone call to the police officer who might have arrested the bike. The bike is released.
That's those days, not these days. Not allow our roof. When I'll give them mandate when the bike is arrested at CBD or anywhere else in the city for an offense be committed traffic offense. When they send a phone call, don't reject it. Tell them your cause is sorry, sir. This is arrested for the offense, but talk to coordinator and bring it back to the station because we have to be professional and we're meant to be on the road.
So now, Superintendent, what do you think should be the way forward? Because it seems as though the CBD issue is need to be addressed because for quite a long time now, for several years, you've been talking about bikes and should not fly the central business district, but adherence has been a problem. They are not simply complying. So what do you think should be the way out of this?
The way is we force the law. We enforce the law. That's the way. And then any figure behind it, that people will break them down. But we have to enforce the law. That's our mandate. We have to go with our mandate.
But now, do you have to remind them of their responsibilities, owing to the fact that you had met as stakeholders in the traffic sector, the bike riders, their leadership. I mean, you've got a union, and you've sat at the police officers' mess. You drafted a document which they should apply, which they should adhere to, but nothing seems to be happening.
Africans, in brackets, Syrians, they are stubborn. But that's what laws are bound to them. No matter, we are very professional, so we must be good proactively before we enforce the law.
So, when are you still going to go ahead with the operation? When is that going to start?
That is left the prerogative of the management.
But as you speak, bikes still plying, I mean commercial bikes still plying the CB.
And we are still arresting them on a normal basis.
Are they prosecuted?
Of course, yes. 15 went to court this morning. They'll be remanded.
So are they convicted?
That's the prerogative of the judge, not me.
Are they fined?
That's the prerogative of the judge, not me.
So how sure are you that you've got sufficient evidence or fact for these bike riders to be convicted?
Well, we charge you on our sections, and when sections are being accepted, it's not the prerogative magistrate say, we warn you, we find it to court, to jail. But it's not the prerogative. Our mandate, we charge, and the judicial has its own decision to make.
So what if they do not stop plying the central business district?
We'll go to arrest them.
Having made several arrests?
We'll go to arrest them. They'll find out where to arrest them.
And so how many have you arrested so far?
Well, we are on a normal basis. We arrested about 20. Operation starts when it comes to reality. I don't know who they guys.
Now, what's your advice to those police officers who man the central business districts, who arrest bike riders, I mean commercial bike riders, and release them upon a phone call from probably a senior police officer?
No senior officer calls a junior man for releasing a bike. No senior officer. Senior officers were very academic, very professional, very dedicated, very promising. When a junior officer arrests bike, he don't talk to the junior officer, he talk to the commander.
But should that...
Because it's imperative.
Okay, now, should that happens?
It does happen.
Are you sure?
Of course.
How effective is your collaboration with? Because you are the national traffic coordinator. How do you, collaborate with all our units within the force to ensure that your operations are effective and efficient?
I work within the professional mandates, professional order, be directed by the director of operation in the country as a whole.
But now, what's your advice to these riders before I...
Mine is simple and clear. I'm in the CBD area. Last year bike, get the double as a valid, you're like being insured. So when there's an accident, you have somewhere to go and claim for insurance. But if it does, I'm sorry, you're going to the pit.
Now, are you going to be using what some Sierra Leoneans referred to then as a crude method of arrest? Where again you have to chase the bikes, you have to use the stick with nails and all the rest of it?
Well, that's it. I don't put on some grammar they use. Sometimes it becomes insulting. Once they chase, we arrest. It's only we chase criminals. But bike riders are on the road, and we have road officers. We have been trained professionally and are dedicated. So when you go against you, so that you spy, just accept even in the international community. We have spies. because you don't want to injure the people. You are going to school so long, you are working, you have family care, making you.
And then what you have to say to the parents, because they are the ones who are, at times, some would say they are the ones who are aiding. Because if, for example, I'm a parent and I refuse to kind of take a bike to take me to the CBD, because I know my life will also be in jeopardy. So now, in the area of the parents, what's your advice to the parents?
You are paying the rider, and when you take over that bike, you are not the custodians of the law. Don't drive me roughly, play less slowly. He will do it because he wants to get money from you.
No, I mean, I'm talking about those who go to the central business district.
No, if you don't say
are prohibited or all over prohibited places.
Yes, prohibited. I'll tell you. Stop me here. We have taxi on the road. I use a taxi.
Okay, thank you so much. And he is the National Traffic Coordinator of Sierra Leone Police, and he is Superintendent Daniel Bangura. Well, it has been Issues in the News. On behalf of this hour's edition of Issues in the News, I want to come to I've been your presenter, Sheku Sumaila. Thank you so much, Superintendent Bangura.
Thank you. God bless.